Islam, Morris. Five on the left, two on the right. Allah, Father of the universe.
Allah, Father of the universe.
Father of love.
Father of love.
Truth.
Truth.
Peace.
Peace.
Freedom.
Freedom.
And justice.
Justice.
Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My guide.
My guide.
And my salvation.
My salvation.
By night and by day.
And by day.
Through his holy prophet.
His holy prophet.
Noble Drew Ali. Islam.
Some finance tonight for the Longers.
Both put in.
By the first, right?
Prophet warns all Muslims, governors, order to read proclamation at every meeting. I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical, agitating speeches while at work, in their homes, or on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings toward the temple or the prophet, or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement, will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law as laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their cardon button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet Noble Drew Ali. And if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet, therefore, is sending out a divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Noble Drew Ali. To be proclaimed at every meeting. Islam. I am glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There is a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation that claim I was only a joke and unreal. But now, since they have found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me so they may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting funds. The ones that paid their divine respect to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I am calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize the movement without I, the prophet, being head. It has been proven by my works which I have performed in the past few years, Prophet Noble Drew Ali. To the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Islam, this is the instruction from your prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Be faithful unto your forefathers' divine and national creed, that you will be blessed for your good deeds that you sow in the flesh. Allah is the one that judges the world, and his judgment is now on, but the weak can comprehend it not. The end of time is drawing near, so says Allah to his divine prophet, I, Noble Drew Ali. And that's why many hearts have been turned to stone. Many have eyes to see but cannot see, ears to hear but cannot hear, lest they would be confounded of their sins. These are trying hours now, dear Moors, and every evil spirit is moving, and they are trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation that has been laid, and to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. But if you have the true love of Allah and the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, but will sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your prophet. Watch your enemies, dear Moors. Your enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet and ridicule him to the very lowest, and the ones that speak against your divine and national principles of your temples. Act accordingly, and Allah would bless you for your good work. Peace, your divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali. There's in that box next to the gray shelf downstairs, there's a bag with those in there. You use that bag right there. for the extras.
There's still more down there?
No, that's where I got those ones, like $6.
We were sitting in the next bag.
Yeah. The Divine Constitution and Bylaws. Act 1. The Grand Sheik and Chairman of Moorish America are empowered to make law and enforce laws with the assistance of the Prophet and the Grand Body of the Moorish America. The Assistant Grand Sheik is to assist the Grand Sheik in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and it is known before the Moorish Americans. Act 2. All meetings are to be opened and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 and love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is a holy day of rest because on Friday the first man was formed in flesh, and on Friday the first man departed out of flesh and descended unto his father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is the holy day for Muslims all over the world. Act 3.
Yeah.
Act 3. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all Moorish Americans. No Moorish American is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister because Allah is love. Act 4. All Moorish Americans must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all Moorish Americans must obey the laws of the government because by being Moorish Americans, you are part and parcel of the government and must live life accordingly. Act 5. No organization of Moorish Americans is to cause confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are a part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men must now proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Jew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All citizens must promptly attend their meetings and become part and parcel of all uplifting acts of Moorish America. Moorish Americans must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of Moorish America, and then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This is a divine covenant. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Jew Ali, through the guidance of his father, God Allah.
Where did you see that?
What's that?
Same as a great bag.
There's a clear bag.
Oh, it's a great.
No, I didn't say clear. I said there was a bag. I don't think I said rich. Moorish Divine and National Movement of North America, Moorish Holy Temple of Science of the World, Moorish Science Temple of America. Temple do's and don'ts. Welcome to Canaanland Moorish chapter of MSTA. We have put together this little pamphlet for all who are interested in joining us to uplift ourselves and fallen humanity. Each of us has a responsibility to our temple in order for us to grow and enable us to continue our activities. The following is a set of guidelines for anyone who would like to join Canaanland Moorish. Dues. 1. Everyone must sign in for each class or event. Please print your appellation and provide phone and email contact. As part of the MSTA family, we need to communicate, look out for one. 2. Guests may attend the first 5 classes at no charge. After this period, a donation of 10 notes per class is expected to begin the process of being a member and begin paying dues, which is currently $25 per month. As told to us by our illustrious prophet, it takes finance to uplift the nation. 3. Once you have become part of the temple, it is imperative that you pay your monthly dues each month. The dues are put towards rent, utilities, and all the other expenses in relation to keeping your temple doors open. When one individual fails to make his or her monthly donation, the onus then falls on the shoulders of the administration and other nationals that pay their dues. This is neither just nor divine. If you are unable to pay your dues, please speak with any of your administration and another form of payment will be arranged, but you must speak to administration about your situation. 4. Although we do not expect dues from the children, you are always welcome to make donations on their behalf. For the past several years, we have held some wonderful gatherings which we intend to continue to do on an annual basis. All of these events take the time, energy, and finance of our varied committees. Many thanks to Brother Omar for his inexhaustible diligence. Therefore, if you are inspired to donate more than the monthly expectation, please feel free to do so at any time. Some of our members have already been doing so, and we greatly appreciate their generosity. We all agree that the work we are doing is the foundation of the future for the young and unborn. 5. No one will have any say in temple business until you have been an active dues-paying member for at least 9 months to 1 year and the completion of all Back to Basics classes on Canaanland YouTube. 6. As a temple member, please obtain clearance for any temple business from the administration. 7. Please understand that this is your temple. However, please do not see it as a means to overcome your present difficulty and then leave. Ask not what your temple nation can do for you, ask what you can do for your temple/nation. Dues. 1. Do attend class as often as you can. Grand Sheikh has been holding it down for the past decade. We are very thankful for all the gems he has given us. 2. Do study, and when you're done, study yourself. 3. Do proclaim your nationality, as the Prophet told us to do. There is something very mystic about this. Once you have done it, doors begin to open. 4. Do pay your dues. 5. Do become involved. Everyone has something of value to offer. As a member in good standing, you can make a great contribution. 6. Do support your temple by introducing anyone you know who will benefit from this movement. 7. Do bring your children to class, but remember that others are here to learn. Don'ts. 1. Don't expect anyone else to solve your problems for you. We are all on a journey of discovery, and we are all here to support and encourage one another. However, at the end of the day, we all need to stand on our own nationality and birthrights. 2. Don't become discouraged. Sometimes some of the concept will seem very strange due to the spell that we've been under for so long. Take time to do your research so that you can go from believing to knowing. 3. Don't create conflict. If you have a problem with anyone in the temple, try to work it out with them with the 5 principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. If you are not able to do this, speak with the administration. Oftentimes, all that is needed is a neutral party to help mediate. But first and foremost, look within and ask yourself honestly whether you are at least partially responsible for the issue. Try putting yourself in the other person's position. 4. Don't wait for someone else to do what needs to be done. If your child is being a disturbance to others in the class, don't expect others to do what you know needs to be done. Once you have become a member in good standing, this means that you also have a voice. If you see where we can improve something, bring it to the attention of the administration. If you have an idea that would benefit the temple, please do not be afraid to bring it up. 5. Don't attend the temple to push your agenda. If you are Christian, you would not use a Buddhist temple as a platform for your dogma. We know we are Moors and not Negro black colored. Please do not come to the temple to argue in the name of blackness or to look for recruits. 6. Don't assume anything. As the Prophet said, every Moor is not your friend and every European is not your enemy. In fact, we have had a few Europeans who have been of great assistance to the temple and the nation. 7. Don't look back. By Mocha Elbe and MSTA trustees. All right, so that's the do's and don'ts that got sent out to everybody.
Did you already read the part when you were talking with, attending that was on the.
Oh yeah, the guest may attend the first 5 classes.
Divine Constitution in terms of attending meetings and stuff on time. Did you already read that one out? You did, right?
Yeah.
I was just going to put it to the class.
Act 7.
How many of us work at places. How many of us are able to show up when we want to show up?
Hardly ever.
Huh? You're one who can?
Call in and show. If something was going on, like my life, I can't be able to often they call in and.
Anyone else though? Like on the regular? You got a shift at 8 o'clock, right? And what happens if you don't show up?
Us.
Yeah. So then the question I would ask, how do we see that that pertains to us in this nation?
This is not work.
Alright?
But this is not work. No, he said that's a question. You hear what he said? The question that he asked. We didn't say it's not important. We're just comparing the two.
No, what I was saying is that Nora is exactly where it is. This is more important than work.
So if you're talking about that, what at your brain stage. The people that you're talking about, that should be here.
All right, so then the question I would then ask is, how do we then get those people to that stage? Because to me, that's what it's going to take to be an effective nation here. If we're expecting to get certain things and certain, what do you call it, rights and liberties, I would have to assume that we would have to act in that way. And to me, being on time is what we have to do to be at work, which is money, which is way down here in terms of what stuff is.
There's a lot more.
Then how do we, because really nationship should mean that most of us should be here like you were, hour and a half early, right? That's really what it should be. So what I'm saying to you is exactly if you're right. If most of us aren't here at that level, then how do we as a nation, if we're looking to get ahead, how effective are we gonna be? It's like, as I was saying to Kiva earlier, if we got a ball game to go to, we need to have 5 players on the team on the court, and only 3 show up, then we're lost before we even began. So what do we have to do to get those people to that level? Or my question is, what are we to do now, since we know that is the problem here?
Well, I would say one thing, communication. So if anybody else can have anything else. Communicate properly to whoever is not.
And I'll say this to you, my apologies too. No, I'm hearing you, we're hearing you, right? Because it is about love and truth and that stuff. And I just, as you know, part of it too has been that I put a lot of effort into this. I was up here at 10 o'clock today trying to get shit ready. We're trying to get this stuff together. And as I said, this is the team. I've been there many a time. I'm on a basketball team and we're watching the clock. And the ref's there and you got the refs telling you they got a clock. You ever been there when they start the clock? You ever been there when they start the clock? You got 3 guys? And then you know the forfeit clock, and you're making the call. Yeah. You're making the call to your boy.
Machine every time.
You're making the call to your boy who's with his girl at that point, and I'll be there. And then you ever been there when the time actually runs out?
No.
No. Is that what it is? No, I didn't. Is that? Wow, I didn't even know that one. I wouldn't know because usually what happens is that's it.
Yeah.
And then you ever been there when the guys cancel the game, and then your boy shows up?
Yeah.
You know that one where the refs actually cancel the game and then your guy shows up. So to me, that's how I see this. So I don't know, but if we're gonna move ahead, I don't know what we have to do, but to me, that's the basic shit. So I'm just throwing that out there to us. I mean, here we are again, watch.
You gotta take a census then about who is doing what and who's not doing what.
Well, very good.
You need to do that.
Well, very good.
People. And then work with the ones that you know can work with you.
Anyone else have anything? Because I don't know, because I mean, I know this, who don't I know this, that we've been here, I don't know, as I said, it's been 8 years for me, 12 probably for him, you know, whatever, so on and so on. That's why we're where we're at. So I don't, huh?
No, and it also goes to show what why the motto is uplifting our people.
Hmm?
Why the motto is uplifting fallen.
Well, that's what it's about, right?
Because we gotta get ourselves to those levels of.
Just to give you guys something, I was talking to Kudo about this week. I'm working with another Unwicked Moore. And the man, we're at work. And I work in construction right now. And this is how the man's pushing the cart. This is one of my brothers.
Yeah.
We're just pushing the cart like this. And I look over, and the Europeans are like, and I'm looking at the Europeans, and they're like, you know what I mean? I'm being sold out by the fact that my brother is moving the cart like this. What the hell is going on here?
Yeah.
How is anything going to be done here?
Yeah,
Right? And Kujo's telling me because ultimately, from my perspective, I'm mad because I want my brother to pick up and start to do some stuff. Because they're like, Omar, Omar, I don't want to say what I want to say, but what they're really telling me, because I now have become the house end, if you know what I mean, because I'm working hard, so you get to come inside. That's what I told Kujo. But what they're really telling me is they don't want to start going off on how this guy is a shiftless MF whatever. And I just think to myself, when I say to Kujo, that it's really about uplifting him. But Kujo's saying that I gotta get mine. So I don't know. Kujo's saying that I shouldn't have. But to me, if it's not about looking after
only from the perspective of like you had put in yours.
Yeah.
You had put in yours to no avail, right? So the guy now who's slacking, he's coming in now, and then they're looking at you like, oh, shit, compared to this guy, Omar's the man or whatever. But instead of like what they did, instead of taking you and making you the mule, let this guy be the mule.
Yeah, so now,
and
so
then
I'm now the house guy taking the orders for the guys working there.
Right.
So I don't have to, but I'm watching my brother, and all I'm feeling is bad for my brother working hard. That's how messed up I am. I'm thinking, I want to put my paper, I actually want to give him my job so I can do that job so that I can let these people know that that's not how we're at. That's what's going through my mind. That's how messed up I am. You see what I'm saying? Like, you guys don't get where I'm coming from. But anyways, when I go to talk to him, I said, why are you doing that? Why are you listening to the man? So you see what I'm saying? You're damned if you do and damned if you don't, because your own man is telling you that he doesn't want to listen to the man.
And that's how I was telling you that is the catch-22. Every situation or instance that we're dealing with as far as uplifting our people is between a rock and a hard place because of where our people are at.
Yeah,
so like I was saying, like if this individual is not carrying their weight, and you've been carrying your weight, and you're getting some little benefits or whatever like that for carrying your weight, but they're not giving your brother any acknowledgement because he's lazy or he doesn't do his job properly or whatever like that, that's on him.
Yeah, hold on for a second. We say that, but we still know it's on us. Because if we're our brother's keeper,
hear me out. But this is
our brother's keeper.
Well, I'm only my brother's keeper if my brother knows about his nationality and birthrights. I'm not my brother's keeper if he's a nigger.
But we can't say that because every time
you can say that.
because here's what I'm saying.
Because they're not looking out. They're not looking out for me. Trust me, the Negroes aren't looking out for me.
I'm going to quote the great master.
Right.
I'm going to quote the great master nature who said, if tomorrow they said you want to come to work, you got to be a Moor. Each one of them is going to be a Moor. So it's really not about them not knowing that they're Moors. It's really about the sorcery that they're under. So I can go tell them that, but we know that. How many of us have gone to these people and they're not waking up? Now, of course, that's their choice. But still to me, I still feel it's my responsibility to keep hitting the rock, so to speak.
Yeah, but you hit the rock based on your workings. You hit the rock based on the example you're setting,
but it's
not
my
the example based on what he's doing.
But it's my workings for these guys, and even for him, who yet hasn't woken up yet, probably because he's been that much under sorcery. Because when we talk to 90% of these people, they kind of get it. Right. But 90% of them aren't into it.
And once you have that talk, that's the seed planted. You need to say nothing to them ever again. You need to say nothing to them. It's not like you didn't try to put him on or you didn't try it or whatever. You did try to work with him or whatever, and he's still pushing the stuff like ain't nothing to do or whatever.
Just look at it like some people, you touch them one time, they wake up.
They wake up immediately.
You walk in the room, you're shut away from them.
Yeah.
Some people, you throw water on them before they get up, and they get up and go sit in a chair still sleep. figure it out.
Well, come on, Morrison, we all know this. I know we're talking hard now and we know this, but ultimately we know that. Is there some limit that it should be that a Morse shouldn't still get a chance? Or an unawakened Morse shouldn't get a chance to pick up? Like, should he only get 4 times to know that he's more and then that's it?
If
I'm just asking because
if they
I'm just throwing that up there, right?
if the seeds got thrown,
Maybe his soil hasn't had enough nutrients yet.
so that's his soil. That's up to him.
But isn't this our nation though?
Not if it's Negroes. Negroes aren't our nation.
But they're only-
Blacks,
but they're-
coloreds, African Americans, African Canadians, wards of the crown, whatever, they're not our nation.
I told my own biological brother, if they should come now with a gun to shoot you and me, and I said I'm a Moor, and you keep saying you're a nigger, I'm gonna have to stand up and watch them shoot you to death.
Simple.
What am I gonna do? And I already told you already. And you see me doing what I'm doing.
And he's seen you doing what you're doing.
Means not everybody gonna make it's not for everybody.
Only a handful say.
My whole brother is not for everybody. Not positivity.
Right? And then we look at
Maybe forever, maybe the next life, maybe the next.
you don't know when they're gonna get it. You don't know when they're gonna get it.
And I started getting out of it.
Yes. I can't go down. I can't go down with him. I cannot go down with him. Can't.
Definitely not going down with them.
Come from the same womb, but I can't go down with you. Can't.
All right, well then, okay, so I mean, you can keep
You
going.
know,
I mean, that was just, we talked.
Yeah.
This is the stuff, because Google gets these calls sometimes from me, and it's, just because this paradigm is real and alive to everything we're doing, as we know. But as I said, now we look here, right? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is our nation now. I don't know, but I'm telling you, see, this is what I realize now. Some of the stuff that I've been looking at is that this stuff is on the front burner. But we realize now that we're talking about all this truth and reconciliation. This yet again is another game of delay and sort of obfuscation, which is trying to get us divided. We have to be active, but it's not just active about getting off on some finance and some bullshit. It's active about getting this shit going. Like Landry is saying, we got to keep active, moving forward, doing stuff. And we got to come together organized. And we got to see this. Who was here last week? Some of us were here, right? Talking about, because you realize when people start getting a little 1, 2 monies in their pocket, all of a sudden it's about the money. But they continue to forget that it's not about the money. Or it is about the money, or the finance, but it's about bringing it in here. We should have had this building already.
We need to go over there again.
Yeah, but you know what? Sorry, you know what I hear? This is what bothers me. People say, watch this, sorry to cut you on, let me finish up the reply. You say I don't have to go over it again. I wouldn't have to go over it again if we're not seeing the same things going on. I would have only had to say it once, and this place would be packed. But obviously, we got to say it 50 times. That's what I'm saying to you. So then we're saying to our brother, we told him 4 times, then how do we know how much abuse he hasn't gotten at home? Yeah, we don't. That's what I'm saying. I can't give up on that stuff. Even my mother right here, who I see, she's lost her way too. I mean, what do? You give up on them? I guess so. And this is what I was thinking. I had a thought about this. They can hear it. We may as well get together and become a gang. Why don't we go rob a fucking bank?
Yeah.
No, real talk though. Why don't we go and why don't we go and do that? We don't need to say that. Okay, then, don't worry. We can just play around here.
No, it's not that.
Okay. All right, so anyways. No, but I just thought to myself, we see all these movies where guys are looking to take their stuff. I don't get it. We don't have to take it by force, but let's take it by something. Because it ain't going to be taken by apathy. It ain't going to be taken by slovenliness. It ain't going to be taken by shiftlessness. I'll tell you that right now.
Again, that's where it goes back to the idea of uplifting fallen humanity begins with self. It doesn't begin with wake up somebody else out there, or put somebody on this or whatever like that. make sure our stuff straight first. Make sure stuff with our family straight first. Make sure all those things straight first before we start going out and trying to make things straight with people who we know that as soon as we give them the stuff, they stuff. They put that down, they go back to doing whatever BS.
Said that to me about nature though too, right? They don't give anything up in their class for at least 3 or 4 months. But I notice here, people come in to within whatever, they're off trying to do some nonsense.
Yeah, which, you know, they're entitled to do that.
But that's what I'm saying, part of it, this is part of where my discussion is.
They're entitled to do
We're
that.
not setting the bar at 100 push-ups, and we're getting guys coming in here to do 10.
Yeah, and if
we're happy
they
with
want
10.
and if they want to do 10 push-ups and then go in the mirror and take freaking selfies about the muscular or whatever, then that's on them. They're the only ones looking like the clown out there when they post that stuff online or whatever after their 10 push-ups. When the 100 push-up guy is doing freaking, you know, one-arm handstands and all that stuff, and they're talking about, oh yeah, they're on that level. When they only did 10 push-ups, they're the one that's gonna fall on their face when they try to do the one-hand stuff. And that's on them when they fall on their face. They have nothing to do with anybody else. You know, just like we said, oh, perfect segue. Just like with our friend here whose meal we got today. So, City of Toronto Court Services. Account number 48 original amount 195, current balance 321. Dear Sir, Madam, the above item has been placed with us for full immediate collection. Your account remains outstanding despite our client's attempts to get hold of you or whatever. You have 7 days to contact blah, blah, blah. So this is a letter for somebody who's not even here no more. Now, if this thing's dated May 10th or whatever, 19th today, and they haven't been here for at least 2 years, how are we still getting stuff to our spot in their name?
And it's not 2 years since we moved from over there.
Right?
We just moved from over there.
Yeah.
So you don't want, I guess you don't want to.
Right? And then this is forwarded from over there now. And they weren't even over there when we left over there.
Is that what that is?
Huh? Yeah, this is 2533.
Oh, I know what happened.
Yeah, it's for, yeah.
Because you know what, it wasn't sitting in the box. It was sitting jammed.
Or in the door, so they probably got it over there or something.
Yeah. This is, you don't want to.
Oh yeah, that was Captain's mail.
Little Captain, you know Captain, you know, who's here?
What are you gonna say here?
Yeah.
Right outside.
Same one.
Almost like that.
Same one. And that was the same one when I was holding Saturday classes, and we all went through this. He came in here. This is why the seals were all locked up now, because he came in there. He wanted to seal his paperwork. So I'm doing a lecture with Setnoff, and he's in the back. And what I didn't realize was he had a stack of paperwork, and he was just sealing about 100 forms with our seal. But I had trusted him in the perspective that we were sitting here like this, and I said, okay, here's the seal. Say that. But obviously, they're still using our address to do their business.
Are we returning to sender?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Let them know. Yeah, tape it up, send it back. Another point of today, we want to give our high honors to Malik Al-Shabazz. May 19th was his solar return.
Who was that?
So, Brother Malcolm.
Yeah.
So we want to put some of his words out there today, just to stimulate those ethers. If you have any comments or interjections, just throw those out there. In a letter from Cairo to a friend, I have gotten several promises of support in bringing our plight before the UN. According to one diplomatic report, Malcolm had not met with success, but the report was not documented, and officials here today conceded the possibility that Malcolm might have succeeded. Passages in Malcolm's memorandum indicated that he had encountered resistance to this idea. Some African leaders at this conference, he said in his memorandum, have implied that they have enough problems here on the mother continent without adding the Afro-American problem. Right, first one. That's from the so-called African leaders. All right? That's the African leaders. That's the, we came from over there and whatever like that and all that. The people over there are saying, forget those guys. We have our own problems to deal with here on the continent. So don't fall for the placation of, them saying, oh yeah, we got land for you, come on over here and all that type of stuff. They don't care about the Negroes in America over there. Because like they said, and they're not wrong, they got their own problems. When is the Asiatic in America going to handle his issues instead of constantly going to other people to try to get these issues taken care of, right? With all due respect to your esteemed positions, I must remind all of you that the good shepherd will leave 99 sheep at home to go to the aid of the one who is lost and has fallen into the hands of the imperialist wolf. We in America are your long-lost brothers and sisters, and I am here to remind you that our problems are your problems. The memorandum continued. The American government is either unable or unwilling to protect the lives and property of your 22 million African American brothers and sisters. We stand defenseless at the mercy of racists who murder us at will for no reason other than we are Black and of African descent. Right? We stand defenseless at the mercy of racists. We stand defenseless at the mercy of racists who murder us at will for no reason, for no reason other than we are Black and of African descent. This is El Haj talking. Letting them know why they're getting murdered, why they're dealing with the racists. Because they're Black and because they're of African descent. That's why they're dealing with this, these issues. Our problems are your problems. We have lived here for over 300 years in the American den of racist wolves in constant fear of losing life and limb. Malcolm also warned the heads of the African states that their countries would have no future unless the American Negro problem was solved. The same thing Nojo Ali said. Now, until our problem is solved, everybody else in the world is going to continue to have problems. Waiting. And then also too, look at the foreign takeover over there. How the Chinese are running those people out their own stuff. They tell them they can't come to their Chinese restaurant or whatever because they're African or whatever. Right?
Marcus Garvey said something like that too, right?
Yeah, yeah. Your problems will never be solved until and unless ours are solved. You will never be fully respected until and unless we are also respected. You will never be recognized as free human beings until and unless we are also recognized and treated as human beings. Asserting that the Negro problem is not one of civil rights but of human rights, Malcolm said, if the United States Supreme Court Justice Arthur Goldberg a few weeks ago could find legal grounds to threaten to bring Russia before the United Nations and charge her with violating the human rights of less than 3 million Russian Jews, what makes our African brothers hesitate to bring the United States government before the United Nations and charge her with violating the human rights of 22 million African Americans? We pray that our African brothers have not freed themselves of European colonialism only to be overcome and held in check by the American dollarism. Don't let American racism be legalized by American dollarism. Malcolm argued that if South African racism is not a domestic issue, then American racism also is not a domestic issue. The Black nationalists who quit the Chicago-based Black Muslim movement led by Elijah Muhammad to form his non-sectarian organization of Afro-American Unity said it was the intention of his group, in coalition with other Negro groups, to evaluate our freedom struggle above the domestic level of civil rights. And they're still playing civil rights today. But they love El Hajjo, and they're gonna have Malcolm X whatever celebration today, and they're gonna go march and wave stuff and do whatever in honor of him. But they're still under civil rights when he was telling them, let's move from civil rights to human rights.
And even though they're honoring him, they're still calling him Malcolm X.
Right. And they're still calling themselves Black. When he told them that, we stand defenseless at the mercy of American racists who murder us at will for no reason other than we are Black and of African descent. And they're still claiming that they're Black and of African descent still. Another article with regard to the same topic, civil rights to human rights. The blind Chinese activist Chen Guangcheng has commanded international attention in the realm of human rights, and Professor Samuel Moyen of Columbia University, in his article in the New York Times on Sunday, has placed his plight in an interesting historical context, invoking the famous Eastern Bloc dissidents Andrei Sakharov and Alexander Solzhenitsyn. About the same time the Russians were the voices of human rights, El-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz was raising this issue for African Americans. He made this demand most tellingly in the speech in '64 entitled The Ballad of the Bullet. When you expand the civil rights struggle to the level of human rights, you can take the case of the Black man in this country before the nations of the UN. Moreover, he charged, human rights are your God-given rights, rights that are recognized by all nations of this earth. And anytime anyone violates your human rights, you can take them to world court. Malcolm X, assassinated in 1965, would have been 87 on May 19th, and would have emphasized totally with Mr. Chen and joined those demanding full recognition of his human rights. At the end of his life, after remarkably productive trips to Africa and the Middle East, Malcolm was poised to move his works to action, obviously inspired from the meetings with such renowned African patriots as Kwame Nkrumah, Julius Nyerere, Namimbi Azikiwe, and Gamal Abdel Nasser. Malcolm believed it was necessary to charge the US with human rights violations with criminal acts that amounted to genocide. If this demand, we insisted, was taken to the World Court and the UN, our African brothers can throw their weight on our side, where our Asian brothers can throw their weight on our side, where our Latin American brothers can throw their weight on our side, and where 800 million Chinamen are sitting there waiting to throw their weight on our side. Mr. Chen is but a current reminder of the greatness and international awareness that was evolved at a phenomenal pace for Malcolm, and who was taken from us right as he reached the next plateau of social and political development. This is the legacy we should be mindful of and obligated to cherish and to complete. immortal as he was incorruptible. Anybody have any thoughts to share on El Hajj before we move on?
Just on a side note, Canaanland bin Nasser, he was a former president of Egypt. So in the beginning, when it talks about coming out of Cairo,
Yes.
that's that wasn't just like that was sort of like a movement. It wasn't just like that visit in Egypt and asking to meet people. He was invited in. Other president at that time.
Right, and then again, with that idea of him being invited in, because everybody in the world knew that he was not corruptible, based on him leaving the NOI, which to them, they were looking at those guys are fake Muslims and all that stuff. They're not really doing the real Muslim whatever. Him leaving gave him that ability to meet with all these different nationals of different nations who recognized what the plight was that we were facing and were willing to assist. And again, don't forget that it said it in here too. Mr. Chen is but a current reminder of the greatness and the international awareness that was evolving at a phenomenal pace for Malcolm, and who was taken from us right as he reached the next plateau of social and political development. So he went, he wasn't doing the Malcolm, got the name correction, came back over here, had his nonprofit that he was about to get all these people organized so that he can use all these Chinese, put their weight on our side, Latin American brothers, Asian brothers and sisters, and African brothers and sisters to put their weight on our side for the fight against these U.S. corpses, state jurisdictions that were trying to violate us and continue to violate us under the guise of, you know, they're helping the black people and whatever like that, which they knew was BS, right? Any more comments, questions?
Yeah, the fact that he said it's a human rights issue, not a civil rights issue.
Yeah.
And that when you go to the UN, you have to bring the human rights issue.
Exactly.
Like that. Basically, the implication is you have to come as a nation. Because if you go to the United Nations, you have to be a nation.
Yeah.
And they just don't deal with individuals and people like that.
Yeah.
It's like saying, you know, you're Walmart, you're gonna sell to somebody like their corner store.
Yeah.
You're too big for that.
Right.
And there's no getting around it. That's what they deal with. They deal with nations. So yeah, exactly. I bring your bicycle to the car wash.
Yeah. I was looking at you funny.
So it's like he's right. Basically, it's like when they say he's on the next level, he was right there. Because that would have been necessary after having gone. And it said like he didn't really complete his mission as the UN, so he would have to come back again, and obviously come back and appropriate persona. So that was inevitable before he passed, but I think it was what months or the next year that he passed away, right? So 64, 65.
Yeah, 65.
Right as he corrected himself.
Hmm?
I said right as at the time that he came in.
Yeah.
Correct form.
Yep. Right. And you know, the people stick to this thing of you know, right before they took our leader from us and whatever like that, but they're not going into the fact that, well, he did correct his name when he went over there and he came back as a new man. He didn't come back here as the Negro-minded individual that he went over there with. You know what I mean? Because again, once you actually you can do your Kwame and Kuma. Look them up. These up here.
That's so cool.
Right, and also too, when you look up Mr. Nasser, you'll see all his pictures. He was fez up all the time. He didn't play around. Would not know what's up. And again, that's Egypt. But there was a pattern for us to be in our proper self across the world, right? And No Jolly picked up on all these things, brought certain things to us, and then now we have access now to the information that we wouldn't have had access to if he didn't present certain things. Right?
His name always strikes me. The mouth,
Yeah,
that's a Hebrew alphabet.
yeah.
The first one. So every time I look at it, G.
Yeah.
So I guess God's servant, right? Nasir, that's, I think that's like.
So God's servant.
Do you feel that your apparent message of love that you brought back from Islam is the real reason they're asking? Do you feel that your apparent message of love that you brought back from Islam is the real reason they're asking, because you're not hating as hard as they want you to?
Well, I never did hate anybody hard, but I do know that when I wrote that letter saying that there were white people in Mecca, it shook up a lot of Muslims, because most of the Muslims who follow Mr. Muhammad absolutely believed that it was impossible, biblically impossible, I should say divinely impossible, for a white person to go to Mecca. And my trip there shattered that image, or that misconcept. Anyone call you directly, Malcolm? I've been receiving calls ever since I left the black Muslim.
And what sort of call? Consider this is chanted in view of the fact that these men who were your brothers are making threats against your life?
No, because actually it's not their fault. Most of them, now Joseph and the officials, they have a knowledge of what it's all about. But the rank and file Muslim brother does not know what it's all about. It's not their fault. Most of them, now Joseph and the officials, they have a knowledge of what it's all about.
Right? All the officials in the Nation of Islam, they already know what's up. This is the stuff that he was finding out in his own due diligence. What's the history of this? How come certain people are X and certain people are Muhammad and certain people are whatever? How come the hierarchy doesn't spread across so everybody could get the lessons? Why is the lessons only limited to the people who are quote unquote the leadership? Right?
But the rank and file Muslim brother does not know what it's all about. They are out of religious sincerity. They think that they are doing the will of Allah by protecting a man.
And again, remember that You could look up, there's a good lecture by, Manly P. Hall talking about symbology, talking about the meanings, the important meanings of symbols. And he was talking about Albert Pike and how Albert Pike had all these different letters and interviews or whatever dealing with this aspect of that symbology is really how the learning starts or whatever, because all these symbols are so grand that the ancients had, that you can take each symbol and then write a volume of whatever just on this one symbol and its meanings going off the different cultures or whatever. And one of the things that he was saying in there is that what they've done is that they've taken dogma and they've put dogma in place of the spiritual lessons that the people are supposed to get, and then have the people chase the dogma as what it really is. The same thing that El Haj is saying right now.
Does not know what it's all about. They are out of religious sincerity. They think that they are doing the will of Allah by protecting a man who I myself taught them was divine. So I don't in any way fault them. But those who are over them and give the orders, and actually the ultimate order comes from Elijah Muhammad himself. As long as I represented the Black Muslim movement as an example of morality, unity, and militancy, as long as I could do that, I represented. It was when I realized that it could not be represented as that I came on and started working among the non-Muslim Negroes, as I announced in January. And I had no intention of writing at March, and I had no intention of ever even speaking on this. Had they left me alone, you still wouldn't know what really took place. Why are they threatening your life? Well, primarily because they're afraid that I will tell the real reason that I'm out of the Black Muslim movement, which I never told. I kept to myself. But the real reason is that Elijah Muhammad, the head of the movement, is the father of 8 children by 6 different teenage girls, 6 different teenage girls who were his private personal secretary. The one who first made me aware of this was Wallace Muhammad, Mr. Muhammad's son. And I had stated in a newspaper article about an effort to take my life back in January. And at that time, the Muslims denied it. In fact, they tried to make it appear to my brother that I was insane. But on a program in Chicago called Hotline, that's moderated by Wesley South, John Ali, the national secretary, admitted, I think it was Wednesday or Thursday, one of these days last week, that they absolutely, on a program in Chicago called Hotline, that's moderated by Wesley South, John Ali, the national secretary.
Was that National Secretary what? Oh, okay. Okay. National Secretary though, right? And make sure he's Ali though before they send him out there to go do national whatever. They didn't send them out as X or anything like that. Make them go talk to the public or talk to whoever that they're talking to. Made sure that they had the free national.
January, and at that time the Muslims denied it. In fact, they tried to make it appear 6 different teenage girls who were his private personal secretary. The one who first made me aware of this was Wallace Muhammad, Mr. Muhammad's son. And I had stated in a newspaper article about an effort to take my life back in January, and at that time the Muslims denied it. In fact, they tried to make it appear to my brother that I was insane. But on a program in Chicago called Hotline, that's moderated by Wesley South, John Ali, the national secretary, admitted, I think it was Wednesday or Thursday, one of these days last week, that they absolutely were going to kill me. What would you take to protect yourself from this threat? I take no steps. I have a rifle. If anybody comes to my house without a good reason, I intend to try and use it. And that's all.
Right now. No, I don't worry. I tell you, I'm a man who believes
that I died 20 years ago. And I live like a man who is dead already. I have no fear whatsoever of anybody or anything.
Okay, oh,
So, Verizon, we give honors to El Haj on his solar return today. And you know he'd be turning his grave if you see what these Negroes did with the stuff that he gave them. Because they did nothing with it. Before we go into the next segment, Brother Yasun.
Thank you very much. Get this more on.
Yeah, you have one. I know you have one there. Shut up, sir. Shut up, certain people. Beat him up with it. Beat him up with it. So what we're going to be doing, we're looking at just to backtrack. So when we went to Grand Street Nature's temple, one of the things that he has in his temple is that the membership presenting something. So we're gonna have 10-minute segments. We're either gonna call people in the week, or we'll take a call while we're here just to see who has something or doesn't have something or whatever. Brother Yasun 2 weeks ago started doing the Quran readings, so we're going to be implementing that. If there's any other findings that Moors find out in their studies, just take out a 7-10 minutes of whatever it is that you're studying, and be open to present whatever your findings are to the body. All right. And if possible, you could just talk a little bit so these ones online could hear you.
While he's talking through that, just to give everyone the heads up, we're doing Montreal. So the lecture there on the 1st of June, 10:30 till 2 in the morning. 10:30 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon. And then I don't know, I'm going to be discussing with my other colleague here as to
He's gonna lose mute.
discussing with the other with my colleague here. What did you all right, so we're looking at doing second week in June. We're going to be going to the brickworks for the offspring. They've got like a whole sort of what do you say, like agricultural area there, as well as an area for the children to play in, for the offspring to play in. And in line with us this year, trying to give some more events, having stuff a little bit more focused for the offspring. So that'll be either the 15th or the 16th of June. And then the week afterwards, we'll be having our annual summer solstice walk. That will be happening at Rouge Hill. So those are the next 3 events happening in the next month. That being Montreal again on the 1st. On the 15th, we'll be doing the brickworks for the offspring. And then on the 21st, on the 22nd or 23rd, depending on the exact day, we'll be doing our annual summer solstice walk. And then July 6th is our barbecue on the island this year. I'm just giving you guys the heads up on that one. Anyone who's been to the islands, the Toronto Islands, in the last couple of years knows that it's crazy lineups there. We're now looking to employ, I would suggest people to taking a water taxi. It's $10 to get you there, and you can get a free trip back on the ferry, or it's $10 both ways. So just giving you the heads up on that. Parking is going to be something. What I may suggest is obviously trying to maybe get someplace near to a subway, and then traveling down, and then going from there. But it's going to be
Come to the car wash.
So
You can try to do one from there.
Gerard to the lake.
Come early. Bro, park for downtown.
So like I said, those are the next 4 events, right? So we have Montreal, we have the walk, we have the Offspring event, and then we have the barbecue. And then we're also looking to, I was talking with Mocha too, it seems that after May 25th, Art Gallery is letting anyone under 25 in for free. So we're looking to maybe have an event as well, where we let get the Offspring in there. So we're really looking to sort of try and wrap some stuff up this summer for the young ones, since this is what it's all about. Did everyone sign the book over here as well?
Morris, you ready? Islam.
Yeah, well, go ahead.
Islam. Yasunel. Give honor to our prophet, to our ancestors, to all the Moors worldwide, all the ones who are keeping up the prophet's movement and what our ancestors left for us. We're going to read 2 chapters from the Moorish Quran, Circle 7, Holy Divine Quran prepared by our prophet. So it's holy instructions from the prophet. Charity.
20 something, right?
I think it's what, 22? That's 32, all right? Chapter 32. Happy is the man who hath sown in his breast the seeds of benevolence. The produce thereof shall be charity and love. From the fountain of his heart shall rise rivers of goodness, and the stream shall overflow for the benefit of mankind. He assisteth the poor in their trouble. He rejoiceth in furthering the prosperity of all men. He censureth not his neighbor. He believeth not the tales of envy and malevolence. Neither repeateth he their slander.
He forgiveth the injuries of men, he wipeth them from his remembrance. Revenge and malice have no place in his heart. For evil he returneth not evil. He hateth not even his enemies, but requiteth their injustice with a friendly admonition. The griefs and anxieties of men excite his compassion. He endeavoreth to alleviate the weight of their misfortunes, and the pleasure of success rewardeth his labor. He calmeth fury, he healeth the quarrels of angry men, and preventeth the mischiefs of strife and animosity. He promoteth in his neighbors peace and goodwill, and his name is repeated with praise and benediction. Islam.
Islam.
I want to continue to read the holy instruction from the prophet gratitude, which is the next chapter following. As the branches of a tree return their sap to the root from whence it arose, as a river pours its stream to the sea, whence the spring was supplied, so the heart of a grateful man delighted in returning a benefit received. He acknowledgeth his obligations with cheerfulness. He looketh on his benefactor with love and esteem. And if to return it be not in his power, he nourish the memory of it in his breast with kindness. He forgetteth it not all the days of his life. The heart of the grateful man is like the clouds of heaven which drops upon the earth, fruits, herbage, and flowers. But the heart of the ungrateful is like a desert of sand which swalloweth with greediness the showers that fall, and burieth them in its bosom, and produceth nothing. Envy not thy benefactor, neither strive to conceal the benefit he hath conferred. For though to oblige is better than to be obliged, though the act of generosity commandeth admiration, that the humility toucheth the heart, and is amiable of the sight both of Allah and man. But receive not a favor from the hand of the proud. To the selfish and avaricious have no obligation. The vanity of pride shall expose thee to shame. The greediness of avarice shall never be satisfied. Islam.
Islam. Any thoughts on those two chapters? Anything that stuck out to anybody?
The charity one, I think, number 4. I was saying, censors not his neighbor. It says, he believeth not the tales of envy and malevolence. Right? Neither repeated their deed or slanders, right? It's like a, evil journalism.
Yeah.
I think those people hand in hand, like charity and gratitude.
And gratitude, yeah.
That's why I guess they're one after the other. Number 5 too, that's a big one too, right there. Forgive the injuries of men, and he wiped them from his remembrance, and friends of malice have no place in the heart. Sometimes when you see someone doing something, and you catch them doing something, and they think you don't see, doing what they're doing. A lot of times, you black colored people, you act a certain way, but remorse, how you, malice and envy, right? Higher and lower self, right? That's not what you forget, right? You're supposed to have a higher and lower self, right? You know what the lower self can do, right? Okay?
If you got any, we got the dictionaries right there if you need any lookups.
It's like the ultimate submission or sacrifice, where say you're being somewhat selfless, but you're actually being very full of self. You know what I mean? Yeah, you're not conscious of yourself, but you realize that a lot of things we do are externally that we say or do pertain to other people too. Not times a reflection of ourselves, right? And it's something that like the ego and the id, right? They're just constantly there, trying to take down them. The ego is there. So once we could suppress that ego or know how to tame it or navigate it the right way, then that's how you're able to deal with those things. You know what I mean? Because it's like it takes a lot for like, you know, sometimes to forgive a wrong done to you and those type of things. So you have to be sure within yourself, because sometimes within yourself, like, why should that person get the benefit of the doubt and have no accountability? I have to take the weight of the burden of that thing, or it's not what. That's the burden of all the prophets too. So,
the second chapter, the first verse, as the branches of the tree return their sap to the root, from whence it arose as a river floweth its stream to the sea. Once the spring was supplied, so the heart of a grateful man delighted to return the benefit received. It just making me think about like when we talk about praying, the concept of praying. A lot of times people talk about praying for things, praying for some benefit, but you get older and you start to realize, like, the more along the journey you get, you more realize that the more opportunity you get to be grateful and take the time when you're praying to be grateful, the less time you need to ask for things. That gratitude is being given to the higher source, the higher self that already knows what you need, already knows what you want. It's almost like you're sitting there praying. If you're sitting there praying, ask for something from some higher source that can give it to you. That higher source already knows what you want. It's like you're wasting your time. Oh, I need this and this and this. Yeah, I know you need this and this and this. I know that I made you. I know every single atom in your body, every thought in your mind.
It's just kind of like what you're saying when like in Earth when they go to war and they'll always say like the battle is ours, but the victory is ours.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
You see, like that's the same thing now. Before I know, my mother, I used to say, Mom, you see when January 1st comes, I'm gonna play all what I want for the year. I'm gonna play again. Sure, I was thinking like that way back.
Yeah.
January.
Yeah.
All that I wanted, yeah. And even ask God, no, give me what I forget to ask you to give it to me. Give me what I give me first. Well, I'm not again.
Yeah. But it's like, it's a different perspective when you go and you look back and say, okay, even the smallest of things, even if you went through a rough time, you look at the smallest of things that you have, the most basic of things, and say, okay, let me show gratitude, and then keep it moving. Mm-hmm. I find that that's better and more effective. And that's why it says, happy is that man. It's not, and it says that even if, part 3 says, and if to return it be not in his power, he nourish the memory of it in his breast of kindness. He forget it not all the days of his life. So it's just that it's the cause of the cycle of getting things, really, if you think about it. So it's counterintuitive to even a lot of what we're told, even in spiritual settings, like, okay, you want something, pray for it, you'll get it, perseverance and dedication and so on and so forth. But really, the foundation is gratitude. Oh, you want something? Okay, what have you gotten before? Be thankful for that. Forget about what you want. You don't even need to have that in your mind, because Allah has it in his mind. So what are you wasting space in your head with all this? I gotta pay, I need this new equipment, or I need beats, or I need this or that. Those things are simple for Allah, basic. But what you need first is to show that gratitude, and then you open that cycle, and the cycle begins, like it says, from the branches of the tree to the roots. Well, then it's at the roots again, and it's going back up to the branches again. And then you have that perpetual cycle.
One's gonna touch me or, for evil, he returneth not evil. He hateth not even his enemies, but requiteth their injustice with friendly admonition. I see that within the situations that we deal with every day with the so-called European, that I've been thinking the last little bit that we have to see the European as our child. And you see this European as this thing that we're fighting. Yet it's like you're starving your child, you're starving your child, and that's basically starving yourself. Because the European was really the creation that we made to sort of save ourselves. And then we're sort of at war with them, we're really at war with ourselves. And that's sort of how these chapters and the other parts of that was the heart of the grateful man is like the clouds of heaven, which drop with upon the earth fruits, herbage, and flowers. But the heart of the ungrateful is like a desert of sand, which swallows with greediness the showers that fall, and buries it in its bosom, and produces nothing. And then envy not thy benefactor. This again goes to the European. Neither strive to conceal the benefit he hath conferred. For though to oblige is better than to be obliged, but the act of generosity commandeth admiration. If the humility toucheth the heart and is amiable on the sight both of Allah and man. To me, those are the things that I think connect us with this connection that we have with the European. And by understanding that the reason why they're running things right now is that we haven't been able to run ourselves. And that we also have to, in a certain way, understand that even though we've come to this level of understanding and overstanding now, they have been functioning with our knowledge now, and that's what's been running this stuff so far. So we have to also pay homage to them. I think that that's some of the stuff that I think that I try to remember, and that speaks in the Red Book about the fact that we have to have humility and love for them as well. That's the only way this is going to really work. We can't take them as the enemy because it's like taking ourselves as the enemy.
So like the prophet said, right? When you get to the top, it's the European, right?
And that's not well, that wouldn't be connotatively nice, right?
Well, they are an expression of ourselves, right? Intelligent, so it is your enemy, but it's self.
Yeah.
It's your lower self.
So I think like, as far as more science is concerned, and then our specific company, I think we, over the years, we've embraced, adopted it, and kind of grasped that concept, and are more kind of into that more than other countries, or maybe other more temples and organizations and whatnot. But I think we already see that, like, like where you're talking about, the Europeans that man, or the child, or their offspring, or reflection of ourselves, or an extension of us or whatnot. I think most of us understand and grasp that concept and kind of implement it and apply it. The problem is everybody else, right? Because to most everybody else, it's still the white man.
Sorry to cut you, but before you come in, I was communicating with some of the Moors that were here in regards to, I work with some unawakened Moors, and I work in a union setting, and they're like, why are you doing that for Whitey? Why are you doing that for him? So I sort of feel like
it's mostly based off of emotion, right? That's
yes, yeah.
Yes.
But from the perspective still that right now we can't govern ourselves. I've said this to Kudo a bit before, and I'll bring this up to us now. It's like I said to him, what if they handed the reins over to us? We'd be in real trouble right now on a certain degree. I really think so. Because we can't, we're not there yet. That's why it said, that's why it said we're leaving the European here long enough to teach you government. Because we don't know that yet. We don't. We're really still going off of emotion. And we're in here trying to get off on some tax. That's some nonsense. The tax is sideways because if this wasn't here, we'd still be paying our tax. And we somehow feel that that's the deal. That's not the deal. And everyone else is paying the tax, but what they're doing is they're taking their energies and they're giving it back to themselves, to their communities. But sorry, go ahead.
Well, another take that I get from all of this and what you said and Yasin has said is the time of Jesus in the wilderness, right? When he was fighting the devil, which is really himself, right? And that's what this is all going with. So it's like, to me, it's a catch-22 or a double-edged sword, where, yeah, you can say, as Jesus said, get away from me, blah, 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 or I hate you, or you're dead. But it's the mindset. What do you actually mean by that? Right? Are you understanding it from the standpoint that you're getting that kickback because of where you are within yourself?
Sorry, that's what I'm saying. So
Right?
it's the
Which is why
language.
some of us approach them and they get different results.
That's what I was thinking, like, before you said, I was thinking about the language too, like, when I said, like, still a white man or whatever, like, it's language, because now, who's the white man then?
Right.
So now it's concepts, it's denotative, bringing definition, connotative definition, the actual etymon of things, and then it comes down to what your psyche is taking in. So, like, I think the white man is the pale face of the European, and then we're uttering kill the white man, but when it's more that I have to do with spirituality, and then the whiteness is the pureness and the spirit and whatnot, and then so we're killing ourselves, really, we're uttering killing ourselves, right? Black power, chanting up, they're the true black person by definition, giving them all the power, right? Yeah, by the utterance, because it's word first, right? Everything we see came from the thought, right? And it comes from our thought, our mind, whatever, and then we speak it and utter it, and bring it into existence, and manifest and becomes fruition. That's what it is, right? So it starts there. So, like, the first example where you're talking about with freaking, if we got control, Dave Chappelle showing the perfect example of that. You have a skit, that's what I'm saying. The comedians do, they're taking the comedians, because they know. They're like, they bring it in a comedic type of fashion, but they know a lot. They're street prophets, you know, they're safe people. Huh? Exactly. So comedians, you know, you gotta take them very much. So there's a skit where it's black people are getting reparations. Right, finally got reparations, that's it. So the place is going crazy. Like the place is going nuts. Like the blacks are going crazy. Like they're buying everything they can buy. Like you never wanted it, you don't matter, just because you have, like everybody has $1 billion, so you're just going to buy. Like you see people running around with stuff, and it's like a man will have something like, you know, like whatever, like stuff. This is toilet bowl is pure gold now. So that stuff. So like, yeah, you're definitely right. If you got that stuff, unless we chose some people to designate them as how they're going to deal with it, yeah, we lost. We lost. So it's in our DNA to want to live in opulence anyway. That's their problem. But now we never had it, we don't know, so it's like a baby or a dog who just got something, now you don't know where you're supposed to preserve it, or it's not gonna happen. But yeah, it would be hard if we got that.
And I also think just to camel back off of that, that's why we're not gonna get it. Because it would be, that's why we're not gonna get it right now, because it would be our destruction.
Yeah.
That's what it also said. The prophet said, I'm not waking all of you up at once. So this stuff is gonna go off. So this is why I try to continue on that path. Why I don't battle with a lot of that nonsense in my opinion. Because as I said, if it was 8 years ago, I'd have to be paying all that stuff, or I would be paying that happily. Cujo always says this too. You think you don't want the so-called policy enforcer or the constable doing some stuff to you. What would our punishment be for what we do? You might lose your hands for some certain stuff.
Begging for some highwaymen. The more, it's up to the Moors to be begging for Metro Police to be arresting you.
I just want to touch on what you said, just quickly, you mentioned Wade, and me and Randy were laughing, but it brings me to, there's a couple of references where these are from the 1920s, 1930s. One is it's a movie from that time called The Crowd. And The Crowd is a group of youths, a bunch of heroes, and there's one dark-skinned boy. And they have their nicknames. His nickname is White. Then there's a modern TV show called Boardwalk Empire. Chalky White. I was just gonna say Chalky White, right? And Chalky White is Omar from The Wire.
Yeah.
I
As soon as somebody said think about Boardwalk Empire.
Yeah, so this
the same character or something.
No, just a couple, and Boardwalk Empire is made in the 2000s. It's like 10 years old, but it's set in 1920s.
And in one of the episodes in that series, they say that the governor, one of the person that's on their town, Drew Ali. So they make a statement where he's like governor, I'll talk to him. He's like, oh, he's on the phone. So no, it's called the feds. Are you supposed to be going to Drew Ali right now or something? You're supposed to meet with somewhere. Yeah. And he's like, no, they're making a joke. He's like, no, it's called the feds.
Because they're in Atlantic City, which is New Jersey.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Boardwalk Empire.
Good show. What's his name there?
What's that on? It's on what? It's
a show.
I guess it must be on the box.
Yeah, I think you'll find it on your box.
Yeah. Boardwalk Empire.
Like 3 or 4 seasons.
Yeah, Steve Buscemi.
Yeah, Steve Buscemi is the main actor.
I'm not gonna say it, but one of the greatest lines, words of wisdom, he drops at the end of the whole series. And the last on the top of the movie.
Yeah.
Great.
I'm not gonna That's something to watch again.
Yeah, man.
I can't remember the episode. I wrote really down to where they mentioned the bed.
I remember it too. I remember it.
I think what's their president? Like there's a couple of they're dealing with the shrine. There's shrines and big.
Yes, it's 1920s Prohibition era, gangsters and
they're back and forth from there to Chicago.
Yeah, that's right.
No freedom.
Yeah,
you know what they're talking about,
yeah. The Italians, Jews, so-called Jews.
Really have anything to do with
more
the drug. All gangster and prohibition and Irish. Al Capone.
Yeah,
Al Capone time. Is it
Lucky Luciano, Al Capone, Meyer Lansky,
all like characters from that time. Yeah. Just their story. So
yeah, it's well. And then real quick too, I wanted to mention about Yahshua battling for 40 days. What he says to Satan is, he doesn't say go away or leave me alone. He says get behind me.
You're not getting rid of him, but stay
just get behind me. Because I know we know each other. You're my brother. I'm in the lead.
Yeah.
Right? I use you, I command you. That's it.
Islam. The next stop is Confucius Ethics and Government. Confucius Ethics and Government by Felito Lopez. Confucius aphorisms on government. And there's a bunch of these, we'll just throw these out and we'll just build on some of these maxims. A people is easily governed when its superiors cultivate social customs. A people is easily governed when its superiors cultivate social customs. And then again, we can go back to the Quran and we can read social duties to see how important the social customs are for the people to be governed. A gentleman should be ashamed if his deeds do not live up to his works. A sovereign must treat his minister with courtesy. A minister must serve his sovereign with loyalty.
Hold on, stop for a second.
Yeah.
You must be ashamed of his deeds.
Do not live up to his word, to his words.
Oh, words.
Words, yeah.
All capitals, words.
Yeah, no, it's
words. Is that the same?
Yeah, no.
Yeah. So I want to break that down. So I want to know the difference. Okay, all right. Okay, sorry.
A great minister is a minister who serves his Lord by following the way and who resigns when both are irreconcilable. A gentleman does not neglect his relatives. He does not give his ministers the opportunity to complain that they are not trusted. Without a grave cause, he does not dismiss the old vassals. He expects perfection from no one. Do not meddle in the conduct of any office other than your own. Do not try to speed things up. Ignore the small advantages. If you speed things up, you will not reach your goal. If you pursue small advantages, large enterprises will not bear fruit. Don't worry if you don't occupy an official position. Rather, worry if you don't deserve it. Don't worry about not being famous, but rather about not having the merit to be famous. Examples of goodness penetrate the hearts of men more deeply than good words. It is easier to obtain the affection of the people by rightly acting and rightly advising them than by effective administration and just laws. Again, going back to Juali with the works over the words. For the good government of the kingdoms, the observance of 9 universal rules is necessary. I want to take these down. For the good government of the kingdoms, the observance of 9 universal rules is necessary. The mastery and perfecting of oneself, first rule. The mastery and perfecting of oneself. 2, the respect for the wise. The love for the family. The consideration of ministers as the principal officials of the kingdom. The perfect harmony with all subordinate officials and magistrates. Cordial relations with all subjects. The acceptance of the advice and guidance of sages and artists whom the ruler must always surround himself with. Courtesy to passers-by and foreigners. On the honorable and benign treatment of vassals. You go over that again? Sure. The mastery and perfecting of oneself. The respect for the wise. The love for the family. The consideration of ministers as the principal officials of the kingdom. The perfect harmony with all subordinate officials and magistrates. Cordial relations with all subjects. The acceptance of the advice and guidance of sages. And artists from whom the ruler must always surround himself with. Courtesy to passers-by and foreigners, and the honorable and benign treatment of vassals. And that's also relative to magistrate and subject chapter. He who behaves with honor and when sent on mission in the 4 directions of the world does not attract misfortune upon his Lord, deserves to be called a knight. His relatives praise his filial piety, and the neighbors of his village praise the way he respects the elderly. And then, if I dare ask, And then if I dare ask, you can trust his word. He finishes everything he undertakes. In this, perhaps he only shows the stubbornness of an ordinary man, yet he could probably be called a knight of inferior rank. He could not do it by means of words, because heaven does not speak. Heaven manifests its will through the merits and good deeds of men. This is the only way in which it manifests its will. Heaven sees through the eyes of the people. Heaven hears through the ears of the people. He who holds public office cannot fulfill his duties must resign. Heaven governs the events of the world without being seen. This occult action of heaven is what is called destiny. Heaven governs the events of the world without being seen. This occult action of heaven is what is called destiny. In the end, one loses the power that is attained through knowledge, but which cannot be maintained through goodness. But the power that is attained through knowledge and maintained through goodness may not be respected by others if it is not exercised with dignity. It regulates the weights and measurements, restores the positions that have been abolished, and the authority of the government will reach everywhere. Restore states that have been destroyed. Resume interrupted dynastic lines. Reinstall political exiles, and you will win the hearts of the people all over the world. Again, going back to Noble Drew Ali and why the divine and Moorish movement is of North America, why the Moorish Holy Temple of Science is of the world, because we are ultimately restoring the state that's been destroyed, whether we're talking about mind state, jurisdiction as far as geographical state, right, spiritual state, emotional state. We're restoring these things. Resume interrupted dynastic lines, right? So we have that idea of us being descendants of ancient Moabites. We have, honor our foremothers and forefathers. All these things are us tying ourselves back to the lines that have already been established. Us falling out of that and being able to put ourselves right back where it is that we fell off without having to go to all these different ways of trying to find out where that is. Reinstall political exile. Like we did today, honoring El Hajj, right? We can call, Khalid, John Henry Clark, anybody who was talking the way that we talk and transition, we can see them as exiles of the earthquake. The majority of those people got taken out for what it is that they were dealing with, right? What it is that they were presenting. If the ruler imposes himself by his qualities and maintains order and harmony with good customs, the people will feel ashamed to act badly and will advance along the path of virtue. Now it goes back again to the divine constitution and bylaws. Those are customs. The acts that we should be following are for us to be better than we are. Give thanks to Moka for the do's and don'ts. Same thing. Customs that we just have to do. Fezzes, turbans, saying our prayer. How we attire ourselves. All these things are part of us being able to advance along the path of virtue, because we have a standard that has been laid out for us to follow, to know that, okay, well, we should do this, shouldn't do this, should say this, shouldn't know that. Any other input thus far? It is possible to serve a prince in the company of a scoundrel. Is it possible to serve a prince in the company of a scoundrel? Before reaching his position, his only fear is that of not being able to reach it. And once he obtains it, his only fear is that of losing it. And when he fears losing it, he becomes capable of everything. Actually, that goes back to even with Morehouse lawyers and these people who they had certain positions, right? Or there was a light at the end of the tunnel of position. They reached that light, and then once they obtained it, once they started not doing stuff properly, and they were told that they're gonna remove that, now people are Ali's and grand whatever, and they have their own stuff that they're doing that has nothing to do with this or whatever like that. Because from the outset, these people were scoundrels. That was just where they were at. You know what I mean? And which is why, you know, certain things that we implement is because of those standards that people have brought into or tried to bring into what it is that we're doing. So once we start calling out certain things and bringing up certain people's activity as being not in line with where we are, it would show them to be folly without even us having to do anything. In order to govern a medium-sized state, matters must be dealt with dignity and good faith. Be frugal and love everyone. Mobilize the people only at the right times. No gentleman should consider what is above his station. Neither the fortifications to be built, nor the natural obstacles represented by mountains and rivers, nor the abundance of weapons are sufficient for the defense of a kingdom. The best defense of a kingdom consists in the determined will of its inhabitants, which is conquered through a humanitarian and just government. Neither the fortifications to be built, nor the natural obstacles represented by mountains and rivers, nor the abundance of weapons are sufficient for the defense of a kingdom. The best defense of a kingdom consists in the determined will of its inhabitants, which is conquered through a humanitarian and just government. And then you can go to Marcus Garvey's speeches and Haile Selassie's speeches about disarmament, world disarmament, and there not being a need for weapons. Raise honest people and place them above the dishonest, and you will win the hearts of the people. If you elevate the dishonest and place them above the dishonest, the people would deny you their support. The four vices concerning government are as follows: not to instruct the people and to hide the truth, which is called tyranny. Not to instruct the people and to hide the truth, which is called tyranny. To demand perfect conduct from all citizens without first informing them of their obligations, which is called oppression. To demand perfect conduct from all citizens without first informing them of their obligations is called oppression. Not to be in a hurry to give orders and then expect them to be carried out in the act, which is a grave injustice. Not to be in a hurry to give orders and then to expect them to be carried out in the act, which is a grave injustice. Always to seek one's own profit, which is called selfishness. Always to seek one's own profit, which is called selfishness. That's the 4 vices concerning government. The one who governs by virtue is like the polar star, which remains fixed in his house while the other stars revolve respectfully around it. The nobleman who seeks to found a dynasty does not aspire to be elevated to imperial dignity, but merely prepares the way for his descendants. If the will of heaven is propitious to him, he will be elevated himself to supreme dignity.
Please. Yeah, I just want to go over that last one again.
Yeah.
There's a lot of more out there. I'm the sultan of such and such.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
king. I'm emperor of such and such.
Yeah.
I'm the
vizier.
I'm the vizier of
yeah.
such and supreme grants. What?
I'm the judge. The judge of the stuff. The nobleman who seeks to found a dynasty does not aspire to be elevated to imperial dignity, but merely prepares the way for his descendants. Again, with Juali again, that this is for the young and unborn. Yeah, we might be able to benefit off of it, but it's really for them to not be able to have to deal with anything that we dealt with, because they would already be brought up with, you know, the maxims of truth. They would already be brought up in history of themselves, the spirituality of themselves, knowing who it is that they are, so that these things don't happen. If the will of heaven is propitious to him, he will be elevated himself to supreme dignity. The good ruler must be generous without falling into prodigality. He must collect sufficient taxes to lead a dignified life without falling into greed. His bearing must be dignified and grave, without being led by vain ostentation. He must have authority, without his command being despotic. He must cautiously demand the collaboration of the people in public works, so as not to arouse their resentment. The ministers of various princes must avoid 3 faults. The ministers of a virtuous prince must avoid 3 faults. Petulance, which consists of speaking when no one has asked for their opinion. There are a lot of that on YouTube or whatever. Shyness, which consists of not daring to express their opinion when invited to do so. And recklessness, which consists of speaking without first having observed the prince's state of mind. Petulance consists of speaking when no one has asked for their opinion. Shyness, which consists of not daring to express their opinion when invited to do so. And recklessness, which consists of speaking without first having observed the prince's state of mind. If you respect your own person and all our fellow men, no one can despise you. If you are generous, you will earn the affection of the people. If you are sincere, no one will distrust you. If all your acts bring you closer to good, your merit will be great. Love for men is the best weapon to govern effectively. The kingdoms perish because their internal decomposition before the other kingdoms attack them. Right, that's all that infighting. All that infighting stuff that allowed everybody to inherit our things. Because as soon as we start having issues, they already know that there's gonna be booty. All they have to do is just sit back, just wait till the fight's over, and pick up all the stuff that's sitting there. Generosity beats the masses. Good faith inspires confidence in the people. Activity ensures success. Justice brings joy. The people do not value the merit of a good ruler. The good ruler leads the people towards good with his presence alone. His action is hidden and imperceptible like that of the spirits. The influence of his virtue is felt everywhere. Like that of the subtle forces of heaven and earth, the influence of a good ruler has no limits. The superior must honor and respect the wisdom of his subjects, and the inferior must be respectful and courteous to his superiors in regard to the dignity they hold. Respecting dignity and honoring the wise are two manifestations of the same duty. What are the four evils? The master replied, the terror that lies in ignorance and crime, the tyranny that demands results without proper orders, extortion, which is carried out through contradictory orders, officials who reluctantly give people what is due to them. You got my message back there? What are the four evils? The master replied. What are the four evils?
Fat boy and shit. Just keep reading that. There's a lot of work to do up there. Inside food for you, babies.
He wants it all for himself.
I know, fat boy wants everything. The master replied.
As he knows you.
This is the problem.
Bro.
Just thinking about our bellies.
I know. Struggling up here. The terror that lies in ignorance and crime. The tyranny that demands results without proper orders. The extortion, which is carried through contradictory orders. Officials who reluctantly give people what is due to them. When the ruler himself acts uprightly, he will influence the people without giving orders. And when the ruler himself does not act uprightly, all his orders will be useless. And then keep in mind, when the ruler himself acts uprightly, that the priesthood is dead. And every man is their own priest, every man's their own ruler, every man's their own sultan, every man's their own whatever. So we could take when the ruler himself or when the ruler yourself acts uprightly, you will influence the people without giving orders. And when the ruler yourself does not act uprightly, all your orders will be useless. When he, the sovereign, is upright, things go by themselves without the need to issue orders. When he, the sovereign, is not upright, he has to multiply the orders that are not followed anyways. When a man serves his Lord by performing all his rights, others think he is a flatterer. When a man serves his Lord by performing all his rights, others think he is a flatterer. Whoever tries to subdue men by force of arms will not reach the submission of their hearts. Therefore, violence is never enough to dominate men. He who conquers men by virtue makes them all submit to it without reserve and with a cheerful heart. Whoever tries to subdue men by force of arms will not reach the submission of their hearts. Therefore, violence is never enough to dominate men. He who conquers men by virtue makes them all submit to it without reserve and with a cheerful heart.
It just makes you think of all rights reserved.
Yeah, for real.
He's conquered here.
Yeah. Yeah, all right. Confucius, rulers, norms, and conduct. Anyone who can expand the 5 practices throughout the world will increase humanity. And what are these? courtesy, tolerance, good faith, diligence, and generosity. The 5 practices throughout the world to increase humanity: courtesy, tolerance, good faith, diligence, and generosity. Courtesy avoids insults. Tolerance wins all hearts. Good faith inspires trust in others. Diligence ensures success. Generosity confers authority over others. Courtesy avoids insults. Tolerance wins all hearts. Good faith inspires trust in others. Diligence ensures success. Generosity confers authority over others. A gentleman has principles, but he is not rigid. A gentleman aspires to benevolence. A common man aspires to material goods. A people can only be guided by customs, not by knowledge. A gentleman may be misinformed, but he cannot be seduced. He may be deceived, but he cannot be misled. A gentleman is tolerant and free. A common man always full of anxiety and fear. A gentleman seeks harmony, but not conformism. A common man seeks conformism, but not harmony. A gentleman worries about the possibility of disappearing from this world without having made a name for himself. A knight demands himself. A common man demands others. A gentleman shows authority, but not arrogance. A common man shows arrogance, but not authority. A gentleman pays attention in 9 circumstances: when he looks, to see clearly; when he listens, to hear without confusion; in his expression, to be friendly; in his attitude, to be respectful; in his words, to be loyal; in your duties, to be responsible; when in doubt, to question; when you are angry, to reflect on the consequences; when you get a benefit, to consider if it is fair. The 9 circumstances: when he looks, to see clearly; when he listens, to hear without confusion; in his expression, to be friendly; in his attitude, to be respectful; in his words, to be loyal; in your duties, to be responsible; when in doubt, to question; when you are angry, to reflect on the consequences; when you get a benefit, to consider if it is fair. A gentleman puts justice above all else. A knight who is brave but not just may become a rebel. A common man who is brave but not just may become a bandit. A gentleman produces 3 kinds of impressions. If you look at him from afar, he seems severe. If you approach him, he is friendly. If you hear what he says, he is incisive. 3 kinds of impressions. If you look at him from afar, he seems severe. If you approach him, he is friendly. If you hear what he says, he is incisive. A gentleman must be on guard against 3 dangers. When he is young and the energy of the blood is altered, he must guard against lust. In his maturity, when the energy of the blood is in its fullness, he must guard against rage. In old age, when the energy of the blood decays, it should be guarded from rapacity. When he is young, the 3 dangers. When he is young and the energy of the blood is altered, he must guard against lust. In his maturity, he must guard. In his maturity, when the energy of the blood is in its fullness, he must guard against rage. In old age, when the energy of the blood decays, it should be guarded from rapacity. A gentleman is governed by 3 principles which I am unable to follow. His humanity knows no anxiety. His wisdom knows no doubt. His courage knows no fear. A man does not try to see himself in the running water, but in the calm water, because only what is calm in itself can give tranquility to others. A man does not try to see himself in the running water, but in the calm water, because only what is calm in itself can give tranquility to others. A worthy man should help the needy, but not increase the goods of the rich. A worthy man should help the needy, but not increase the goods of the rich. Yep. A virtuous man always gives good advice. A man who gives good advice is not always virtuous. A good man is always brave. A brave man is not always good. Be polite in private life, reverent in public life, loyal in personal relationships. Even among barbarians, do not depart from this attitude. Be polite in private life, reverent in public life, loyal in personal relationships. Even among barbarians, do not depart from this attitude. Driven by political maneuvers and content with punishments, people become cunning and lose their shame. Driven by virtue and moderated by rights, they develop a sense of shame and participation. Even minor disciplines have their merits, but he who has a long journey before him fears the swamps, and for this reason it is that a gentleman does not go the less frequented ways. Even minor disciplines have their merits, but he who has a long journey before him fears the swamps, and for this reason it is that a gentleman does not go the less frequented ways. And the last one for the day, actually two more. From the noblest to the humblest man, everyone has the duty to improve and correct their own being. From the noblest to the humblest man, everyone has the duty to improve and correct their own being. Lastly, humanity is more essential to people than water and fire. I have seen men lose their lives by surrendering to water or fire. I have never seen anyone lose their life by surrendering to humanity. He hates those who are vile and slanders those who are superior to them. He hates the brave who do not know the rules of coexistence. He hates the bold fanatics who are narrow-minded people. Islam. Confucius, Ethics and Government. Yeah, that's the name of this book right here. And there's a few other, there's a lot of Confucius writings out there by different authors.
Confucius, Ethics and Government.
Yeah, Ethics and Government. Confucius, Ethics and Government. And it's obvious why Noble Jwali mentioned and gave honors to Confucius, because the majority of his writings are geared with regard to governing self, governing the kingdom, governing the nation, governing each other, governing enemies, governing whatever. And Noble Jwali told us that we're supposed to be in that place of, governing ourselves, right? Any comments? Any other input or any announcements? Yeah,
I thought you were opening a question or question.
Yeah, right now. Yeah, that's that time right now. Any type of questions or comments, whatever.
Program. Right now, it's just going to be pertaining to men or masculine energy, but still the feminine energy. But as on a physical level, it's going to be just male members only for now. So So it's kind of programs private, by invite only, and you're allowed to bring one guest at the initial, your first meeting, and then a couple weeks into it or a few months in, we might, or now we might, we're gonna expand and open it to the public. Right now, just a venue, a little atmosphere where brothers can come and talk about whatever they want to talk about. We build, we break down stuff, we try to find solutions to things that are affecting us every day. Help us, like what Grant Eagle is talking about, helping self. And once we can help self and self is mastered, then we can help everything and everyone else. So we got a lot of healing. So it's more or less like a healing program, Whatever you can get out of it is what we want. Yeah, there's a lot of discretion, because a lot of personal things we just spoken about. The more we're asking about it, we're gonna broadcast it, put online, but I don't think
Yeah.
And that's one day, certain members who are alright with it. We'll have a specific session here on a specific day, and then we'll be talking about a specific general topic that we have decided that we want to share, and that the info that we're talking about is valuable enough or important enough that everybody should know about it. So those type of things, like we have a special guest speaker, and it's something that not really dealing with personal issues of the individual members or whatnot, just general stuff, then we could put something like that out for the general public, and that's gonna be private, no recording or anything like that. Run every Thursday from, but we try to make it around 2 hours, so we like 7 latest, we want to get out of there. 7. This is recommended, I could bring out a guest, somebody who person, that they might be interested or might be good for them. And then we build them, But then, there's someone here before 7. And most time Larry will probably be here, but most of it is, it'll be me, Tez, or Larry possibly, and most likely we'll be getting here around 7, just before or at 7. So the concept is like, what is the acronym?
Listen, man, this is just a.
I know, I'm saying you to almost have to see the definition of what it means to you. Here.
I think the money, that's what they're trying to offer right now, but I'm saying.
Yeah, she obviously should use them or something. She obviously use them.
It's been in the works from last year.
So it's one hour, huh?
Right.
Yeah, no, you can throw that out. That's just an ad or whatever. That's not nothing real.
A lot of time.
It's just an ad.
I know what this is for, that you obviously use this address.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, you send it back to,
It's on the Sunday, you don't see them.
unless it's only 250.
Those who can make it will be greatly appreciated, and certain people distance, and once a week is hard enough to get to the temple. So you can, it's always open. If you know anybody who might be interested and they need, for men, for a lot of us, we're sheltered, like we're taught to be strong, be a man, don't cry with certain things, right? Yeah, so that's what it is. You want to open up and it's always don't feel comfortable. You have anybody we connect with or we relate to. So if you're in an atmosphere where people have like minds, you might feel comfortable. And then you could come there, you could have the program for years, you could come there and not say a word every single time. That's your choice. Right? You just want to take in, you just want to listen. That's fine too.
You can look at it as a spirituality anonymous. People could, specifically for males to come and get their hugs because they need hugs too.
When you come in, that's the mandatory. When you come in, you hug, and you leave, you hug. That's what it is. We're trying to take, just to be sensitive or to be in tune or in touch with certain emotions doesn't mean you're soft or doesn't mean you're quote unquote acting like a girl or whatever, right? I mean, if that's the case, in most scenarios, what's really wrong with that? But when you really break it down and check it, we like to say, you always want to make sure to say women are emotional. We're so emotional. We're way more emotional than that. As far as even controlling.
Yeah.
But it's something as simple as us going out there, and if you look at society, our communities, we can call it Black community, and then the different genders, the male and female. If women are so emotional, why aren't they always picking up guns to go murder other women or other men?
Yeah, for real.
We're the ones who do that.
Let's on to that.
We're the ones who can't control ourselves. But we need to be checked, and we're afraid to because that's how we're taught. And they have programs. Women have a bunch of programs that we can't go into. We need something for ourselves, right? Because at the end of the day, they brought us forth. And it's not no chauvinistic thing. It's not no stereotype thing or they're falling. That's why the prophet has them in his hand. There else would be the other way around. So it's not no thing like, oh, we gotta pick you guys up. No. Yeah, we do have to pick you up because you gotta pick us up. But on certain levels, your vibration is stronger than ours. So if you're not right, we can never be right. No matter how hard we try. So we have to do our part to get you right, and then everything's just gonna fall in line. Right? So that's why we gotta link up and do certain things together so we can fix the bigger picture. Right? So as much as like it's just a reflection, you're the problem, I'm the problem, you're the problem, I'm the problem, you're the problem. You know what I mean? But most, and if we look at how things are going, the ratio right now, right? To whatever, right? So obviously, the men on certain levels, when it comes to dealing with certain things that are ready for our nation, correct me if I'm wrong, ladies, but I think they might have a little more direction and focus, right? So if we could help them get on track better, then we have to do it. But if we didn't, then there'd be more of them than us. Because there's more women than men here
Anyway.
in the world usually. So why aren't there more women in the room right now?
No, so here, I want to counter that. I want to counter that. The reason why people are not here is because they're at home looking after the offspring.
Yes,
For the most part. And to me, hold on, I had this discussion. I feel that's some of the stuff we've got to focus on. Really, I think the women do want to be here. But what happens is it's the condition. The man is out there doing his stuff. So the woman's at home with the children. That to me is the bigger problem.
Yeah, so it's our concept on how we think, right?
So just to back off.
Exactly. The offspring come here all the time.
Offspring is really here.
So it's not,
so
that's not a real explanation, it's an excuse.
It's not an excuse, it's an explanation. So it's not an excuse.
So how come they can't bring them here?
Because a lot of the times, the stuff that's going on at home, the dynamics is such that the woman is sort of meant to sort of stay there, right? Or what?
It's hard, it's not easy.
Thank you.
Of course it's not.
You can't just get up and go.
Yes, you can.
As
I know, right? It's,
No, no, it's
That's
not,
not fair to
it's not.
Yeah, but she's got a new one. You've got two that are portable, like they can, yeah, exactly, so.
You want in life, I'm just.
No,
No, it's true, you can, you
You
can.
can, but if
But not
there's
all the
a
time.
level of difficulty that
Yeah,
she has,
exactly.
that, you know, everybody's situation is like, it's unique, in fact.
I'm not saying all the time.
Yeah, I wasn't here.
I'm not saying all the time.
Anybody can do
One
they
time.
want to do.
Of course they can, no,
One time.
we can all do it, but it is difficult to do it sometimes if you're at home with a baby, let's say, or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 children, and you gotta go someplace, it ain't just I'm gonna put on my clothes and go, I gotta put on all their clothes and go too.
So if we can't help each other out with that.
That's what I'm saying.
We're supposed to, that's.
No
That's
disrespect.
what I'm saying.
But to my point, I'm just saying, if we don't take the initiative, and who's taking the initiative most times? It's us. So if say we step back and start moving just according, like how we're moving, not take that extra step, we're gonna be even in a worse position. So if we could take the initiative, then we have to do it. Because obviously, it's not happening the other way. That's why things are going on the way it's going on. So we can't really wait. I just,
Okay, so just to counter that, because people and I talked a lot about, quite a bit about this, from my perspective, a lot of the time, as I said, like what I always say, it's not as easy as you think. I haven't had a newborn to be looking after that, maybe Kiva, you can speak to that to a certain degree, because I see you here with the offspring. I see Quadro, I know you bring your offspring too, but for the most part, men aren't usually walking with their offspring like that. It's usually the empresses that are just sitting, hear me out, I'm just hearing, and what I'm saying is that, and this is just to counteract, this is where we had created more family services, that we're also looking at the dynamics behind that whole thing, because we've heard from other Moors in here, and other empresses who do want to come here. So as I said, those dynamics don't work out a lot of the time. So that's something that we can look at as a comprehensive, because both of them should be here. Huh?
they're gonna have to come here to do work. You know how much females I know, and I could, like, if I bring them all here, they'll come. But once me and them are not good, they can't come here.
But that's a problem.
And they won't stay home. They don't even have to come here. You think after, like, I'm not engaged with them, I'm like, yo, more science, and okay, what are you reading? And let's study. Okay, is your mind, are you interested in this? No. If I don't do that, you think they would even say, and I say, okay, you know what, you don't have to come with that. You can go online and look at everything online. You think that's gonna happen?
Well, let's say this.
You think that's gonna happen?
Check this out. So from my perspective, a lot of times, the women a lot of times are where their men's mindset is. You can see that from a certain perspective. Right? Just really, they should be coming here.
Not always.
But I mean, what I'm saying
It's
is,
a different time now.
I don't know about that.
I wanna go back to where we started. We started with Hubs, which is a program that you said for the male energy. The truth needs no apology, so that's just what it is. And during these times, it's like, me personally, if somebody's in my homeland, occupying my homeland, I'm under occupation. So there's certain realities that should already be inherent. First of all, men are on the front line. Second of all, the women and children are in the back. Why? Because we're being occupied. Your perspective is that you're at peace, or you're brought from Africa, so you're in a foreign land and you need to go somewhere, then we don't have any common ground there. Go do what you gotta do. We're here, at home, in our homeland, being occupied. So if your land is being occupied, that's a state of war. That's why they tax you. So this program is perfect because it's better for the men to help each other out than to go back and try to get help from the female who's raising the children. But if the men can help each other out enough, then they can start to look at the female and say, okay, you need to show up because we've pushed the front line as far back over there. You know, you can come behind the line and it's peaceful behind the line. You know what I mean? You can come in and be at peace and at ease. So, which is why last Sunday we built on the business. We built with Brother Noor Abbasel. And I want to bring it up that Tuesday we can do it again. I just want to make sure that, you know, the energy is going to be there. And that's mental energy, physical energy, and financial energy. So Tuesday is also an option, right? But what we can do is if people, like, I like to keep it real. Like, we're all busy, right? Like you said, women are busy with children, men are busy. So even if we want to touch on things on Thursday, see how that goes, and then branch it out to that. I don't want to push it. I mentioned it last Sunday that we could do Tuesday. I'm downtown now every day, but it's up to you guys. You know what I mean? But regardless, I think we should keep building on this business concept. If we want to take time out of Thursdays and do, you know, just like the same we did with Noor, we can do Rennie's business, we can do my business, we can do your business. You know what I mean? And go through, not because you might need something, but you might have something to bring to the table that other Moors don't know about. So let's bring it to the table and keep that building going on. And then, you know, we can look at the females without any kind of shame or any kind of indignity. You know what I mean? We got worth and still be proud as Moorish men. You know what I mean? And not looking for something, looking for a hand, but be handing each other. Right hand to hand.
But aren't the Tuesday and the Thursday nights two sort of different things we're talking about here, or am I when it came to right.
I'm saying, that's what I'm saying. They were started off as two different things, but I say in practicality, I'm not the type of person that's gonna say, okay, I'm chairman, I wanna see you guys here Tuesday, I wanna see you Thursday, I wanna see you Sunday, I wanna see you whatever. Like I said, I'm keeping it real. So if you guys, as soon as a mind, if you guys don't mind, to get things done and to get information out there, like we said, we sat down with Noor Senior have been coming for how many years? And there's certain aspects, I knew that you had a body shop. There's certain aspects of everything I didn't know. I didn't know there's certain things you need. I didn't know there was certain strengths you had. I didn't know you were as experienced as you were in certain things, right? So it takes that time to sit down face to face and say, this guy does that. This guy can bring this to the table. That man is looking for such and such. This one.
So you're saying like, based on the people's availability and their ability to get to the jungle, they might not be able to reach Tuesday, but if they reach Thursday, like certain things we can still get done in that certain time just because we have the time to do it.
Yeah, and because partly to me it's like when you're in occupation, there's no time. Yes, there's the aspect of being sensitive, but at the same time it's like you know, you're not gonna sit there on the front line for 5 hours and have a spa day with the dudes, right? Like, yeah, okay, you know, if you need a hug, I'll give you a hug. But there's bullets flying over our heads, so let's deal with that. The bullets are economic. The bullets are silent weapons. You know what I'm saying? So when we come together, like I said, if you don't mind, if you want to squeeze it into Thursday and say, okay, take a half hour Thursday, if somebody volunteers, say, look, let's break down my business. We'll go through the Vassal or whoever and break it down the same way we do that.
I just want to say, I hear you talk about, I just think that it's important for men to be focusing on that emotional part and that business stuff. Unfortunately, just as putting it out there, I just think what the students got is a special jewel, and I think we should be coming to that from a position of that kind of thing, of just coming here to talk about, you know, that stuff. You know, I'm having fun. Cujo, hold on one second. Right. Cujo was talking about this, right? He was right up in a fight with me and my Empress. Was it?
Oh, yesterday.
Yesterday. The Empress was mad. And he's on the phone and it was like it was a beautiful thing. And I sort of feel like that's what we need. But anyway, so
that's gonna like the program is geared to that, right? But it's gonna like everything is relative and relevant. So at certain times, like I might be going through some emotional problems because my business is down. Yeah. Or my business ain't good, or things.
That's the main attack. The attack is cut the male off from his economy, and then he's gonna be emotionally hurt.
We want to provide. If we can't provide, it affects us. Real man.
And then if you can come to a place where you know there's a man you're comfortable with, and you can show them, say, okay, yeah, you know, in order for me to get from A to B, I need such and such. And you don't feel like you're asking, but you're putting it out there to your brothers because they deserve to know. Right? Those are the people who should relate. You're just letting them know where you're at.
If it relates, then yeah. But that's what you're saying. Like, I'm not sure that stuff in the program gives a certain, obviously not. Like, there's a time and place for everything, right?
I just think that for us men, like you say, I don't have that problem because I'm always in my shit. But I think for a lot of men.
No, Omar. In a community of people, the men come together and they make sure every man knows what every other man does. Period. I'm sorry, bro. I don't support any kind of sideways looking at that. You gotta look at it straight on. When the men come together, they need to know this man owns a business. What does he do? What does he need? How long has he been doing it? How experienced is he? So on and so forth. It's a must. There's no moving forward after that. That's the front line.
You know, why don't we take a vote to see if if you're looking at something where we just got it's all action oriented, or if there is a need for what Yasun proposed in the first place. It's very simple.
Because what I'm seeing is this, okay? First of all, when we're talking about emotional stuff, now let's talk about money. And you know, money and chaos is all an illusion. But our relationship stuff, that's somewhat an illusion, but it's the real stuff.
How many of the men in this room are interested in what Yasun has to offer?
The thing is, it's not competing.
Hold on, why don't we just say, Mocha just put up a question. It wasn't for anyone to add anything into. what you said. How many of us are into that? What you soon put forward? Yes. There you go. So what he proposed.
What you just said,
Before anyone else jumped in.
what he said.
Right. Thank you. So that seems to be passed.
And
What
what was said after, I know what was said after.
You can have a vote on that.
Who has a problem with what was said after to somewhat implement that occasionally into the program if need be? Who has an issue with that? Put up your hand.
Was a problem with it?
Yeah, who has an issue? Put up your hand.
Yeah, once it's relative to the theme of hugs, like you're saying, like, you know, somebody's quote unquote business might take a hit, and they need that support as far as talk about it. How could we, whatever. But just to say, using the hugs program for business meetings or whatever, I don't think you should do that. That should be a separate meeting, strictly dealing with whatever the business subject matter is or whatever.
As far as what Ted is saying, I think it makes total sense, because if we're all networking or working together, and we're brothers, like, we're supposed to know the ins and outs of each other's dealings and doings, so that way we could help each other if need be, and assist, right? Because now, like Ted's saying, he never knew certain things. Like, shit, I can bring my ribs to you, or like certain people come to my car wash and now we need a body shop guy. Boom, I got a body shop guy up there in Newmarket for you. Boom, or wherever, you know, Richville, wherever the gods say. Boom. Now when you're done getting your stuff, you bring it back down and let me detail it for you, right?
Right.
But if we don't know the ins and outs or what each other do, and yeah, it's gonna be hard to fully assist each other. And make that full link, like you said, so the chain is strong.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, so it's not everything. I get mad at my bro. I just got mad at him a couple hours ago. Because he stays in Ajax. I'm saying, like, when you coming down to the area, coming on the interior, let me know. Like, coming down and you just pop up, like, let me know. Something maybe I could eat from you, or anything, like, I wanted to drop the castle prank. I was doing it on time. As I'm on the bus, and I'm thinking about, like, I'm sure you're gonna drop. I'm like, not coming down here. Like, my mom's asking her. I'm on the bus halfway to the station. He's calling me like, yeah, I'm on the way to the why are you calling me? Let me know. I just want to, like, where are you? I'm on the bus and wait for you. Yeah. Right? So, communication is so key, bro.
Yeah, but the communicate, that'll be across the board. If it, you know what I mean, like, it's not going to be limited to the day that something's going on or whatever like that. You know what I mean? Like, it's you know, 3 days, 4 days prior, we're already communicating that I'm going to be here. We're going to have a ride, or, you know, we got a meeting going on. It's at this time, that time, or whatever. But I mean, I think part of it too is like the whole thing with having the separate things going on is so that the activity in the building seems more for outside people. You know what I mean? So it'll be beneficial to have a Tuesday and a Thursday and a whatever, opposed to squeeze everything on one day. You know what I mean? Out of convenience, but really having more days makes the
that's what
the activity.
Yeah, it makes us feel good too. Makes us think like, okay.
Yeah, stuff is going on. You know what I mean? Yeah, there's stuff going on every day of the week or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Another kind of suggestion other than the Quran reading, let's make it like, because we need that time for ourselves too. So I don't know, sometimes I wouldn't want to do it all the time, but right before we close out and do our prayer, do like a minute or two of this silent meditation.
Yeah. That was the Sheldon program. So we can start. Yeah.
Just now, I'm trying to remember that one. We did something the other day.
Yeah.
I can't remember how or when it happened. Or
It was that.
It was Sheldon.
It was that.
It was Sheldon.
So we could probably do that now. Do a minute.
I have a 2 minute. Just in a chime and just be silent. The chime every like 5 seconds.
Oh, you have an app or something?
No, it's on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
meditation sound.
All right.
I think it might be YouTube. Right, so we could just play it and
What's
everybody-
the thing? Yeah, I'll play it on this.
I would want everybody to kind of maintain a certain posture, just so the energy flows through your body right too. So I'm not kind of looking at everybody, and we all have bad posture. I've been going to rehab for the past 7 months, so learn how to sit and everything right. So really, you're supposed to do like this, and as much as possible, you're supposed to try to clinch your back together. Like this is how we're supposed to sit. We're supposed to walk with our one cheek clinched. Right? Right? It's messed up. But this is really the right way. You're supposed to posture like you walk like this, like that's supposed to be out, the track supposed to be line. Right? So it's like this. So I've been training myself for the past 3 months and I've been strengthening my back. Getting a lot of tired, gets tired a lot, but you know when you feel it, like you know you're supposed to just sit it. And you know naturally you're gonna get tired and you're gonna go back into your slouch. And you'll be like this, and as soon as you notice, fix up. Or you do it as consciously as much as you can.
Yeah.
When you get tired and you feel you can't do it, let it go, relax. For a couple seconds, whatever, a minute, and then get back to it. But for now, yeah, I want us to sit. Don't even lay your back rest on the thing. Let your spine clean and energy flow. And your hands, whatever posture you feel that's comfortable for you. We'll close our eyes, or don't. It should be like 2 minutes.
Yeah, I'm about to play right now. 2 minutes, 2 minute one, right?
But I don't speak, I could do it if you want.
Oh yeah, I forgot you have your big time. All right, go ahead then.
2 minutes, and then we'll close out. I would say you can think about whatever you want, let your mind race if you want, because it's hard to not think about anything. But if you want to try to free your mind, I would say focus on your breathing and just use that as your meditation guide. So maybe four seconds in, if you could do 8, do 8, and then 8 seconds out, and just count the breaths. Try not to think about anything else but counting your breath. Try to feel the breath coming through your stomach too. You don't know how to breathe through your stomach. Find your stomach as wide as you can. And release all the air in your stomach. Just see if you have to touch it, see if you feel the air going into it, do that. 10 more seconds.
Shit. Islam.
Who's the master that knows how to not think about nothing? Yeah, you gotta teach him. I know you focus on breathing still.
Picture something in your like.
Still stuff. Yeah, stuff popping.
I can never stop, I can't stop thinking for a second.
Same here, Prairie Block.
Yeah, so I started, when I mentioned the diaphragm or stomach, yeah, when I started focusing on that, touching that, it helped me drown out stuff. No, but then, like, you still,
yeah.
I hear Omar fidgeting over there. Like, but I shouldn't even be able to hear that. I got this thing.
It's supposed to be blocking out, yeah. In your own bubble. Bubble boy. Peace and love, Morris. Islam. All the online Morris, you could open your eyes now. Morris gone flying off.
Yeah, that'll be dope.
Yeah. So got Montreal barbecue, July 6th. Summer solstice walk.
So that's a Sunday. You don't know the barbecue?
Barbecues are Saturday. That's July 6th.
Yeah, exactly. For the 31st. That's a solstice walk.
26th. So we can talk about. We can talk about this. We can talk about this.
This would be July 1st. Oh my God.
30 in June. 30 in June.
That's what I asked. I'm not saying no. I know what I'm saying.
July 6th.
So Omar, explain the
summer Sunday. Why I'm saying no.
Saturday, Sunday.
No, because you got 31st. It's 30 in June.
Trying to figure out what we want.
Okay, so it's on the 30th. Okay.
Yeah. So that was.
Yeah, there's only
There you go. There you go. Yeah, well,
So the question being posed out there is that whether we want to include, or you can speak to this, whether we want it on the Saturday or we want it on the Sunday. I mean, technically, if we have it on the Saturday.
What on the Sunday?
Or I think maybe if the weather's good, it'd be a great sort of build on the Sunday, right? And then it sort of gives people the Saturday.
Well, as far as what?
The walk.
Oh, for the walk? Yeah, we can do a Sunday and then just do a class, do the outdoor class, start up that.
Well, I'm saying, summer solstice walk, your class would be
Yeah, but I mean, since we're out there, we might as well do an hour. So it doesn't have to be nothing crazy.
The barbecue's on the 6th?
Yeah.
Is that it was the 6th or 7th or 5th?
6th.
6th?
Yeah.
So it's all in balance. Huh?
So,
6th January.
we'll say that the summer solstice walk will be on the 23rd. And that would be the Sunday. Usually I'm trying to get it as close to the actual.
To the gate, yeah.
To the gate as possible. That's why I sort of put it on the Saturday, but I also know that a lot of us have other stuff to do. Not to say that this shouldn't be all of that, but I'm trying to sort of hopefully not having all of us have our, having the family time and all that stuff that we need.
Turn around, right?
Yeah.
So
like July 23rd is astrological.
July?
Yeah, July 23rd.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
For one,
23 make the 5, which is the true number of July. And not only that, so
yeah, they said like you're supposed to see the star day or star sun. One of the star, it illuminates that day heavy. It's also like the Leo person. So that's going on that day. But there's a lot of spirituality on July 23rd.
Well, I'm going by the summer solstice date of June 21st. I don't know. If you change that.
Well, not a change, but you always work the gates. Well, don't worry, that's right. That's just
So anyways, what it's looking to be is gonna, if anyone's been out near Rouge Hill, they have a Rouge Beach Park. But if the Rouge GO Station, they're, the 23rd. At Rouge GO Station.
23rd June.
Rouge GO Station, where all the buses come, if you take the Lord's bus or the Eglinton's bus, that goes to whatever it is, but it ends at Rouge GO Station. Basically, we meet there, and then we walk to Rouge Park, and I'm gonna go do a survey to make sure it's all what I think it is. And that's where we're at. And then, as I said, we're looking to do on the 15th, or the 16th, we're looking to have an offspring day at the Brickworks, which is a beautiful little sort of marsh area that they have.
16th of June.
Well, either, as I said, we can talk about that now, either the Saturday or the Sunday, but I think we should look at Sunday again. That would be the 16th of June.
What's it called?
Brickworks. If anyone's been there, it was an old brick factory that was there 120 years ago. There's obviously going to be a lot of our energy involved with that. In terms of,
What time is it?
there's not a time yet, but I mean, what they're saying is they have a children's and an offspring park that's open between 10 and 4. So I figure maybe we meet up for 12 there. Offspring can play there. There's also, like as I said, they've got basically these platforms built out over the marsh. And they say you can find turtles in there. When I was there yesterday with my in-person, there's little goldfish in there. It's a huge open quarry area. And they sort of built it up. So I thought that would be, it's free. There's a shuttle that leads from Broadview Station. So that you can
Where's it? It's down like close to the lake.
you know, if you're going down the DVP, they have an off of Broadview, off of the Broadview. No, if you're going down Broadview, we go on the big hill there, and as you're going around, the whole brickworks that used to be there in the red, it's an abandoned factory now, they totally revamped it now, and it's, I don't know. It's not the cone, it's just a big factory.
You know where the Dairy Queen on Broadview?
Sunday.
You know the Dairy Queen? When you go down the hill right there?
Yeah, bro.
To go down to brick, yeah. So at the bottom of there is where the brick.
that morning when he comes, when he goes down into the
Yeah.
Where the ranch is.
No, that's not it, but it's not the ranch, you keep going down, and then you have to sort of go down Broad.
Yeah, to get the Bravia Express.
Yeah, sort of further down there.
Yeah, a little further down.
Kind of cone thing, no?
there probably is one next to it.
Oh, where with
Yeah,
the sand or whatever, where they put the sand in or whatever,
Yeah.
No,
it's around there. It's around there.
It's across the street.
Yeah, it's around there.
You're getting off of Bloor to go.
Right, you have to go
Or.
Yeah, where the train tracks, yeah.
Yeah, you see that there, you have to go
Yeah.
north. Basically, if you come off at the Bayview lower extension there, you take northbound as if you're going up Bayview, and it's right there on your left side. Across the street from that, and as you're coming off there, you're seeing those big cones that you're talking about there. So,
And then for transit people, there's a Broadview
there's a shuttle that
There's a shuttle from
Broadview Station. Right. To that.
to going down to Brookworks, yeah.
And then also what I thought maybe in future years, basically and I saw some little offspring there, there's a bike path that leads from the belt line. If anyone knows what the belt line is. Right, so from Moore and Bayview, there's a path that you can ride right into the Brickworks. So that, and then as I said, there's an art gallery I'm looking to with the offspring. There's also an observatory I want to get to with the offspring. There's also one of the unawakened Moore up in my work. His son teaches, he's obviously more not open, but open to the information. His son was an Olympian windsurfer, and so his son is doing classes. I'm thinking of, this is stuff that I think we should start looking at with our offspring and getting them fully sort of exposed to all of this stuff, because I think that's very important. Because I think a lot of our offspring, obviously all of our offspring have talents and energies that they can, that we should be looking to nurture.
Islam. Anything else? Close out. Islam to everybody in attendance. Ready? 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe. Father of love. Truth. Peace. Freedom. And justice. Allah is my protector. My guide. And my salvation. By night. And by day. Through his holy prophet. Noble Drew Ali. Islam. And before we close off, quick fast. Sister Khalifa gave us a donation for the museum. Fascinating, picturesque, timeless. This tarot deck satisfies the need for cultural diversity in the tarot tradition as it conveys the cultural enrichment that thrived in an atmosphere of tolerance in Moorish Spain. Viewed through the lens of a professional tarot reader and artist, Tarot of the Moors is visually stimulating and refreshing for modern enthusiasts as it captures the symbolism of tarot in an accessible, infectious way, drawing the user into the different symbolic richness. This elegant pack comes complete with 78 attractive, vibrant cards and a guidebook that teaches tarot readings, methods, and compelling card interpretations and keywords. This book is a historical saga full of traditional tarot wisdom and includes unique court card ranks and spreads. Additionally, Hebrew letters, astrological signs, elements, and cards' esoteric titles are also presented. This deck is appropriate for practitioners of all levels and provides everything needed to give insightful readings. So we're gonna try to get another one of these so we can have an open version that we can do our tarot with sometime in the future. So Islam to Sister Khalifa for that. And yeah, that's it. Islam, Morris.
Good meeting, Morris. Good meeting.
Yeah, no, I didn't hear about that. That's already announced.